Hi, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Success Builders. Welcome. So today we have an exciting new guest. We have Shawna Martinez. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on your show, Ricardo.
Sure, it's an absolute pleasure. So Shawna is from a company called MTZ Solutions, which she started with her husband, and we are interested to hear her story today. But first, tell us where you're calling in from.
So I'm calling in from Los Angeles area, just a few minutes outside of Los Angeles, California.
Oh, cool. Welcome to the show. I'm in the future in New Zealand, so um, we are doing time travel interviewing here. Um,
Right.
so, um, all right. So I think the audience would really love to hear a bit about your story and exactly what you do and how you stumbled upon that journey and what led you to get onto that path. So I'll open up the floor to you and tell us your story.
Sure. So, yeah, MTZ Solutions is a company that my husband and I started over 10 years now. And so 2014, I think it was February 2014. And that company happened because, so I actually have, my background is in business operations. I have over 25 years in working in business operations. So I actually started working in a business when I was 16 for a friend's family's business. And I worked there for several years and I got all kinds of experience actually working with the owners. So I was like an executive assistant, I was customer service, I was doing all these things and I loved it. And I actually, I remembered recently that, when I was a kid, I was, I loved like playing business. Like I would like with cardboard boxes, I would pretend they were a desk and I had a business or um, just also I remembered that I love organizing. And I think that's part of like business operations. There's a lot of organizing that goes into that. And I was remembering another story how I would go to the store with my mom and she'd be like putting things in her cart or looking at something and I would be like organizing something that was out of place. So it's just kind of funny how that, I grew up and I'm still like doing organizing, but now I'm like organizing data and documents and things like that. So, yeah, so fast forward to this business I was working at. I actually got a lot of great experience there, and I even did traveling to different parts of the country, and even I went to Europe doing some like market research type of stuff over there and did trade shows. And then I worked for a couple other companies, same kind of thing, business operations. And then I ended up working at this one tech company in downtown Los Angeles. And it was really neat because my husband and I, we lived in downtown. And so I applied for this job and I got it, and it was just like literally a 10-minute like commute. So we lived in a loft. And so I would like leave my loft, go to the elevator, go down the elevator, walk, and then get to my building and take the elevator up. It was like on the 28th floor in the financial district. And I would be at my desk like 10 minutes. And then I could even like walk home for lunch. And it was actually like a really great experience working there. It was like a ultimate tech company, fun, nice environment. And I ended up, what was neat was I would, they would get, so I was like, initially I was an executive assistant and then I was like customer services manager and operations, things like that. But then I would like talk to the president of the company. I would be like, hey, you know what? I really don't like doing those tasks that much or working on those kind of projects. I prefer to work on these other ones. And it was cool because he would be like, okay, and he would give me more of these other things. And so I ended up eventually, um, and some of the tasks that I ended up loving were spreadsheets. And so I ended up becoming like the Excel ninja of the company, which they called me
Nice.
that, and they gave me an award for it one year, like at a Christmas party.
That's so cool.
And and I just loved, like, I got really advanced in Excel, Microsoft Excel, and I ended up becoming the BI analyst or business intelligence analyst, and just creating the daily, daily revenue reports, daily, weekly, monthly, annual reports, and these giant spreadsheets with these super complex formulas, and I just loved it. And I worked there for over 7 years. And so that company ended up uh, going out of business ultimately.
Ah, sorry to
And
hear.
so um, it was a point, and so this was in 2013, July
Hmm.
2013, when they closed the doors. And it was like some of the people there at the company, they're like, hey, Shawna, hey, I can get you a job at this other company, this really good company, this really cool company, and downtown, same kind of situation. However, um, all those years, my husband and I, all those years where I was working at this awesome tech company, all those years, my husband and I, we always had like this dream of having our own business. And in fact, when my husband and I met, we talked about how we both like biz are interested in business, and we also talked about like similar music interests and that we had. And so it was music and business were like the things that we talked about. Um and so fast forward, we're married, and we're like um working on these different, we had like a music, it was like a multimedia music project, where our first project that he and I worked, his background is in music.
Right.
And um we did things like music videos and productions and t-shirts, and so multimedia lifestyle brand type stuff. And so while I was working at that tech company, we were doing this stuff on the side. And then so yeah, like it was just like, should I take these job? I had like three different job offers. And I was
Nice.
like, you know what? Let's go all in on these businesses that we say we want to do together. And um because actually, I had this great, even when like I was working at this ultimate company, like on the top floor in downtown LA, beautiful view of the mountains, which I love, just looking at the mountains. So my desk, I could just look up and see the mountains. It was awesome. I would like, I remember I would like look down at the cars in the street and think, man, I wish I was like hanging out with my husband, like driving around or walking around, working on some project together. And so when the time came, instead of going and applying for those jobs, we're like, let's, put our heads down and like dedicate ourselves to a business. And we ended up doing some other project that didn't go the way we hoped it would. And we were kind of like a little bit, feeling kind of defeated about it. Like, what should we do next? And then I got a call from an old coworker from that tech company who knew I was like the Excel expert. And he was like, hey, my wife has a business. She has a project, an Excel project. Would you want to work on it? And I was like, sure. And it ended up being like this data gathering project that needed to be put into like a Google spreadsheet. And it was a pretty big project. And so I was like, hey, my husband, David, I was like, hey, David, let's work on this together. And so he worked on part of it. And that was like our first MTZ, we call it MTZ for short, MTZ Solutions is
Yeah.
MTZ. our first project for MTZ. We worked on it together. And yeah, we just, after that, my husband, he's like more like visionary, like thinking bigger. And I'm more like, okay, what do we do next? Let's make it happen, implementing. So he's like, hey, you know what? I bet other people need this kind of service. And he started uh, putting ads on Craigslist, actually. And so he put ads on Craigslist. So I think we had something like, have an Excel problem, let me help you fix it. And we would get calls. And or there was also people that would post on Craigslist, hey, I need somebody to help me with this Excel. Or also like Microsoft Office, like a PowerPoint or a Word doc. And so sure enough, I would, answer those ads, and I ended up getting like something like over 80 clients, and like doing over 300 something projects in like a short amount of time, like a year to 2 years. So we were really busy. And actually, uh, when I when I got that first call from my old coworker for the first MTZ project, I think a few days later, we found out that we were expecting our first uh, son. So
Oh,
now,
congrats.
fast
That's so
forward,
cool.
thank you. Fast forward 10 years later, our son is 10, and now we also have a 6-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son. So over the past 10 years, we grew a business and we've grown our family from two to now five of us. And
Respect. Respect for
yeah,
doing that. I know it's hard. I've got 4 kids. I know exactly what it's like. And
yeah.
yeah.
And I
Um,
think having the kids, it was like part of the motivation and dedication was like, I want to be able to keep this thing going. I like to be remote. It's always been a remote company, online business. I like to, spend time with my son and then go to the other room and work on a project on my computer, and or have like a video call with a client, and uh, or with, well, now we actually have a team. So we have a team of over 20 that actually do all the client work for us now. And that's another story of how we got there. I could share it, or we could share that another time. But yeah.
yeah. So, we'd sort of love to know, like, your experience in managing a team. So I know for some people it's quite hard to learn how to delegate certain things, especially someone who's used to organizing things themselves, like me, for example. I am very hands-on. I'm also a very operational type person, and I find it hard to delegate and give other people the tasks because I always feel like, only if I do it, it's going to be 100% correct. So, what are your strategies behind managing such a large team? And are they all remote as well?
Yeah, so everyone's remote, and they actually they're all US based, although we do have some that one of he was in California, and then now he lives in Germany, or like, but he still works with us, and for our clients. And so uh so I guess I'll kind of back up. So what ended up happening in about, I think it was about 2016, I'm working with all these clients, and then we started getting really large accounts. And so one account, there was this project, it was like a data organizing project. And it was just like so much data needed to be organized and cleaned and put together in these reports, and this whole thing, where it wasn't like just my husband, David, and I. It was like too much for us. And we're almost like, maybe we gotta like turn them away. And then we're just like, let's just staff up. And so we ended up adding people to our team, and for this one particular giant project. And it ended up I think we had brought on like 17 people uh, for that project. And to do that, I just kind of, and it's interesting how like your past experiences, like just we were already set up. So we were already used to working with other people, like in our multimedia lifestyle
Yes.
company that we had. So we knew how to bring on a person and have an agreement in place. Um, and then from my old tech company that I worked at, I was already used to like putting together documentation, like documenting things and even doing like trainings and tutorials. So yeah, that's what I did. And I would just get on like Zoom didn't exist then, but I used this other software where I would like share my screen and it was like a voice call. And I had put together like this documentation, process docs or SOPs of what was required. And I built in um, quality control steps and stages um, and we ended up, completing that project and um, that was it was a really big project. It was a lot of work, but we did it. And then
Okay.
we didn't actually keep the all those 17 people. We only kept a few because we didn't need them any longer at that time. But um that one big client we still have today. So I was just talking about it earlier. I think it's almost like 8 years now
That's a good
because
run. Yeah.
yeah. And actually, I still have clients from my first year in 2014. I have one client that still works with us. He has an e-commerce business. He's um, okay. So back to managing. So it's interesting because I actually when I worked at a tech company, they offered me a management position and I turned it down because it's not something I was interested in. I just like being on my computer, like working with the data and making great, clean visualizations and organizing the data, right? But it was something that I guess I was kind of just had to do. I was like, well, if this is gonna be required to keep this going, to have this situation where I can work remotely and be with my kids and, you know, then that's what I'm gonna do. And that's just kind of like I just continue to level up as needed. And just if I don't know how to do something, research how to do it and do a lot of research on it and then just and then I'll just implement it and that's just pretty much what we've been doing, this whole time and then borrowing from past experiences and you know.
That's so good. It seems that you are quite resourceful. And the next thing I wanted to ask you is, are you just keeping your existing clients, or are you expanding at the moment to seek out new clients?
So we actually, like, as I mentioned, we have clients that have been with us for several years, and large clients, and we have teams of people working on their stuff. And but we are expanding. And so that's kind of in, where my husband and I have been spending our time with. We manage the team, we meet with the team, we have really good systems in place where the team can kind of self-manage, or we have like project leads that meet with other people on the team. So I don't need to meet with everyone on the team. And then what we do with our time is um, working on expanding. So that's like, so as an example, we noticed a pattern with our clients where we work with these really it's kind of high level seasoned entrepreneurs. They're like serial entrepreneurs. Several of our clients, they have multiple businesses. And so we provide services to several of their businesses. And something we noticed that's happened with different clients that don't even know each other. One client, he has some businesses and they've been getting acquired. And so like one client, he sold one of his businesses for like something like 10 million. And
Oh,
then
crazy.
another client, um, same thing, 10 or a little above 10. And then that same client who um, there's a company that we've been supporting for the last several years. They're actually an e-commerce company, and they have scaled from like 10 million to 80 million, and they're scheduled to exit at 100 million next year. And
That's huge.
so yeah, and it's just really neat. It was just like this pattern where like we have supported our clients and their businesses, and they've been able to scale and even exit. And so we were like thinking about uh kind of a newer when we expand, we're starting to think about expanding. We're thinking about saying that we help companies scale to exit. But really, we're like, no, let's get more specific and just help them prep for exit is really what we want to get really specific on help. And in particular, e-commerce companies, because we have helped some e-commerce companies. We've supported a lot of different types of companies, but in particular, e-commerce is an area where we would like to specialize.
That sounds awesome. And now, is there a particular size company that you, have a cutoff point where you kind of start working with them? Like, do they have to be doing a certain amount of turnover or be established in some certain way? Or do you deal with startups as well? Just let us know a bit about that.
So for this new expansion and new angle that we're working on, which we're actually calling it Ultra Exit, and
So cool.
for that, for that we are getting specific with companies that have already scaled, they've already been successful, and they're at least 500,000 a year in sales minimum.
Mhm.
And so that is, and so we can help them um, prepare them for a profitable exit. We can basically provide the strategy and support to prepare them for a profitable exit.
That sounds so cool. And now, could you tell us about some of the methodologies that you use and or some of the things that you focus on, just maybe one or two things where you really hone in on and um, in the process of preparing that company for exit.
So really it's in operations is business operations. So that's what like MTZ Solutions, we're like a business operations agency. And so it's like getting their information organized. Um, and that could be, for example, uh, tracking data, it's like data management, um, putting together analytics, reporting, um, and also, documentation is really big. So it's kind of like we're trying to reduce the owner dependence. So when to make them more attractive to buyers ultimately. And so that's putting together what's like knowledge bases. So it's like a knowledge base could be something like where it's like the documentation is in one place, and then there's also like a tutorial that goes along with that documentation, just making it really easy and seamless for somebody that needs to know something about a process that they could just pick it right up. And it's not all in the owner's mind, basically.
Oh, that's a big one, yeah. So that's also something that I'm very big on is documenting for succession because, yeah, I he used to work with my dad in his manufacturing business, and everything was in his head. Like he knew everything, and no one else knew because um, we all had to go to him to essentially find out all this information because he wasn't a guy to basically put things down on paper, right? It was very old school and small business like. So, I I fully understand the benefits for growth and for succession and being able to exit to have everything documented. That makes so much sense. Yeah. And I'm gonna throw a bit of a curveball at you before we close. I would love to ask you, what would you say were some of your challenges that you've had over the years? Or one or two.
Sure. So challenges, I mean, I guess it can be challenging. You kind of described this earlier, and I'm just kind of realizing maybe I didn't even fully answer of how we've went from, my husband and I were the ones working on the projects and having our hands on the projects, and now we're not doing that anymore. Now our team is are working on the projects. And it was a challenge to get to that point, and it took a lot of documentation and creating video tutorials and but that was a process that like a trial and error for us to get that uh ironed out and but now it's great, and now we're able to implement those things quickly for our clients. And it was it was something that I needed to do because I was like, I don't want to be in my office all the time on my computer, and my kids are, over there. I want to be hanging out with them more was, one of the big motivations for that. And then now, our kids our older kids are in school, and so it's now we're able to focus on expansion, like those types of activities is kind of what we do with that time. Uh, and let's see, I'm trying to think of another challenge. Um, I mean, I think there's just challenges all the time in business, and I'm learning that's it's like that for everyone. It's not just me or not just us. It's like
Oh yeah.
there's all
Um,
these different kinds of challenges.
Sometimes as a business owner, you're basically a fireman and you're just putting out fires every day. And that's my own personal experience of being a bit of a serial entrepreneur myself, is that yeah, there's always some new curveball and you just have to be adaptable and just take everything in your stride and just try and find a solution, a workable one for every problem that gets thrown at you every day. And don't be scared to ask for advice or reach out to others who have been through the same thing. That's actually quite important. So it was really awesome having you with us on the show. Would you like to leave a final message with the audience, maybe to entrepreneurs out there or to, um, uh, your ideal client avatar who is looking to exit? So, any sage advice or wisdom you have to give?
Well, so I'm looking up here because I have a chart where, because I'm not always remembering, what I want to say. But for Ultra Exit, what we're the new thing we're working on, our new angle, it's really we want to support people that maybe they are feeling like they're kind of trapped, and they just want to do something different. Maybe they want to spend their time doing something different, pursuing other projects. And so we actually the other day we came up with this tagline: exit your business and enter your dream.
It's so
And
good. I love it.
yeah, thank you. And so, yeah, so we're saying, we help e-commerce businesses prepare for exit. and we provide the strategy and support to prepare you for a profitable exit. And so that's what
That's
we want to do, and we're really
really
excited about
beautiful. That's so lovely. Thank you for coming on the show today. And thank you to our viewers for being here. And remember our tagline, which is actually quite similar. It is dream big and build bigger. Until next time, bye everyone.